It's been filed.
Okay. Well, we will turn to that in due course. So Judge Hill, was there anything else that you felt, and if I should be addressing Mr. Maples, I didn't mean to shortchange Mr. Maples in terms of the legal team for Mr. McIver for the criminal investigation. I'm happy to hear from any or all of you individually. But you and I had started the dialogue when you brought to me the emergency motion for injunctive relief. And I don't want to leave anything hanging. I do think the right next step is to get that proposal from the state as to tank team or whatever it is they're able to come up with. And until we do, the items stay under lock and key, or they're all returned if before we hear from the state we're able to work through Mr. Maples' motion and I grant the relief he seeks there. That's just not on today's agenda.
Your Honor, you and I are on the same page, and that is the gist of the proposed order I have. I've not had a chance to give it to counsel for the government, but I will, and hopefully there'll be no objections to it and the court can enter it.
Okay.
So with reference to the exigent circumstances regarding the documents, I think that's been taken care of. I assume that the verified complaint for declaratory relief is going to be put back on the wheel and assigned to another judge, because there's additional relief requested in the complaint beyond injunctive relief.
Right, and my understanding is that it was assigned to Judge Whitaker.
Who disqualified herself.
Correct. And then it came to me because of the emergency aspect, so that we could address that piece. I claim no ownership otherwise, other than that I was available to hear your concerns and to act on them. But we'll need to work through that logistically. It wouldn't naturally come to me. It might randomly come to me.
Yes, sir.
And it's my understanding that the universe of non-recusable judges is shrinking rapidly, but we'll see what the wheel does.
Okay. One thing I would ask, and I'm not asking for a response now unless the court feels inclined to give me one, but for the court to consider. Before I approached the clerk to even file and approached any judge for relief, I emailed to the district attorney, specifically to Mr. Howard and to Mr. Rucker, a copy of everything I was coming to the courthouse with. And I provided them with a waiver of service of summons and process. They have the summons, they have a copy of the verified complaint, but I've not been able to get anybody to accept service and waive. And what I'd like to do is have Mr. Rucker, on behalf of his office, accept service of the complaint so we can start moving on the underlying verified complaint. And if not, I'd ask that the court, under the rules, for the purpose of service of process, appoint me specially so I can hand it to Mr. Rucker.
Well, we're all here on a separate matter, so I will certainly assist you on that front when we're done with what we need to do here, but I don't want to misuse the authority I had to get everyone here today for a related but different purpose. If you continue to be frustrated in your efforts to serve the district attorney's office, that is something I can help with even before the case gets reassigned. That shouldn't be hard for you to do.
I do not want to send the sheriff's office to the DA's office.
I bet the sheriff's office doesn't want that either. Okay, thank you. Mr. Rucker, should I turn to you when I want to hear about whether there's anything administrative from the state side we need to work through?
Yes.
Okay.
And of course, good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon.
And good afternoon, Counsel. Administratively, Your Honor, I kind of echo with what Attorney Hill has said with respect to how we resolved the emergency nature of the motion on yesterday. And so we, of course, will be in communication with him with respect to the process by which we come up with a tank team or an independent group of folks who will review the documents that the court will keep in a safe area until that time, and then we will address that, I guess, as issues arise.
Okay.
The only administrative thing I would say is understanding the court's ruling with respect to not using any of the photographs from the execution of the search warrant on April the 14th of 2017 at the Kingsborough condo. I would ask the court to make an in-camera inspection of 6 photographs that I would like to use during the course of this hearing. I don't believe they contain any privileged materials, and I believe the court is able to discern the nature by which these photos would be relevant and with the proper foundation be admissible.
Okay, have you shared those photos with?
Not yet.
Okay, why don't you share them to the other side? They may say they're coming in. And was that it in terms of administrative concerns?
That's it.
Okay.
We have, for the first time, looked at these 6 photographs.
Yes, sir.
It's quite obvious that these photographs were made during the execution of a search warrant, and the admissibility of these photographs depend upon whether or not it was a valid search or not. That is, do they have a right to be where they were at when they made the photographs?
Okay.
So we object.
Okay. I will let you use them for the purpose of this hearing.
Right.
I don't think that they, I mean, I should take a look at them as well, but divining what they are of, I don't think they show anything that's privileged.
Sure.
To Mr. Maples' point, though, I may need to undo everything if, at the appropriate time, we work through the challenge to the validity of the search warrants. Okay.
You're going to need copies of the photos that you have, the 6 photographs, they're made from 2 searches. One is at the residence and place of business of Mr. McIver at Lenox, across from Lenox Mall, and the other one is made at his farm or ranch out in Putnam County. We would like to request copies of the affidavits for those searches.
Okay.
That are filed and we haven't.
Mr. Rucker, what's the status of the affidavits and their availability to the defense team?
You give me 1 second, Judge?
Sure.
Let me answer that question. And just so we can kind of take up a good use of the court's time, I would like to bring to the court's attention that I would like to invoke the rule of sequestration.
Okay.
I believe there will be witnesses, I've seen them out in the hallway, that are in the courtroom that would be subject to this hearing as well as future hearings.
All right. If there's anyone here who is expected to testify during the course of this bond hearing, you should step outside. In other words, if you got a subpoena, you're on that list. Please wait outside until someone brings you in. Here for, did he? And if so, so what? Do we do something to modify the bond? It's not about was it a valid search or not. Ultimately, it may become that, but that's not what's before me right now. And so if we could get started with the hearing, my thought is we should do that. You are certainly entitled to the affidavits. I just don't see how the affidavits are going to change the question of should there have been a gun in one place, or should there not have been, or was there a gun, or I don't know. I need to hear the evidence, but I don't think the evidence is going to be, look at this affidavit. But if I'm missing something, I'm happy to be educated.
I understand, I appreciate the court's ruling. Nevertheless, we have an objection and continuing. And maybe rather than interpose an objection each and every time they talk about this search on April the 14th at Mr. McIver's residence, his place of business, and at the ranch on April the 19th, rather than continuing to object each and every time because we contend all of it's inadmissible, may we just simply have a continuing objection to anything and everything that they learned as a result of those two searches?
You may, and I'll get that on the record. So let's get started with the bond hearing then, okay? You ready, Ms. Price?
Yes.
All right. We are here on complaint number 16 CP 164511. The state has filed a motion seeking to revoke the bond of Claude Lee McIver III, and that's what we're going to talk about this afternoon. We have had a prefatory conversation about the defense's concern, as articulated by Mr. Maples, that none of the several searches that were executed pursuant to search warrants over the last couple weeks were valid. We're not going to take up at this point the specifics of the defense concerns. Now that I've learned they don't even have the affidavits, it would have been an interesting conversation. But either way, what I have decided to do at Mr. Maples' wise request is to grant a standing objection to any reference to admission of evidence that flows from fruits of the searches of what I'll call the Putnam County property, the residence on Kingsborough. I don't know that we'll hear anything about it, but the search of the storage facility in DeKalb. Those are the only searches I'm aware of. I'm not limiting you. If there was a fourth and a fifth and a sixth search, you're protected on those as well, Mr. Maples. But I'd like to focus on whatever the state's concern is, and equally importantly, the defense's perspective as to why shouldn't be concerned about that. It's not as it seems, and we'll go from there. So, Mr. Rucker, if you will call your first witness unless there's some opening comment you want to make.
Would the court be inclined to just hear a brief opening statement?
If it's brief,
Okay.
so you may want to have someone else make it.
Okay. Well, understanding that you do have a copy of our written motion to revoke the bond of Mr. Claude Lee McIver III, said motion being filed on April the 17th of 2017, I will be very, very brief. And I'll just say, Judge, that we are here because of an event that occurred on September the 25th of 2016. On that date, Landa Diane McIver was shot once in the back by a firearm that was being held by the defendant, Mr. Claude Lee McIver, while traveling in a vehicle in Fulton County, Atlanta, Georgia. The Atlanta Police Department was charged with the investigation. They charged Mr. McIver on December the 21st, 2016 with involuntary manslaughter, felony, and reckless conduct, misdemeanor. Mr. McIver surrendered himself to the Fulton County Jail and had his first bond hearing on December the 22nd of 2016. Said bond hearing being held at the Fulton County Jail in front of the Honorable Judge Melanie Lethbridge. Judge Lethbridge heard argument on both sides with respect to the issuance of bond. She issued an order on December the 22nd, 2016, granting Mr. McIver a bond in a total amount of $200,000 with several conditions. One, the defendant should not violate the laws or the ordinance of the state. Two, he should have no contact directly or indirectly with the victim or the victim's family or associates. He had to notify a change of address. If he failed to appear, a warrant should issue. And other special conditions that Judge Lethbridge imposed was that Mr. McIver was to not have any guns or knives. He was supposed to have an ankle monitor, surrender his passport, not have any contact with the eyewitness during the course of the shooting, who was the driver of the vehicle, who's been identified as Ms. Patricia Carter, and any friend or co-worker located at Corey Corporation, which was the business of the victim, and no contact with the employees of the McIver branch in Putnam County. This court order was signed by Judge Lethbridge on the 22nd. Mr. McIver affixed his signature acknowledging all conditions, and with the court's permission, this is a certified copy. I've marked it for the record as State's Exhibit 1. I'd like to present it to the court. I would first give Mr. Hill a chance to see it. I believe he has a copy of it.
Okay. Any objection? Am I talking to Mr. Hill or Mr. Maples?
And Mr. Maples is going to make the short opening for us, so I'll let him make the objection.
Okay. Any objection to State's one?
No objection.
Okay. It's admitted.
All right. Judge, on January the 30th, 2017, there was a second hearing to modify the conditions of bond filed by defendant McIver. That hearing was held in front of the Honorable Judge Law on January the 30th of 2017. After a hearing, the judge issued an order on January 30th allowing the bond to remain at $200,000, but she altered some of the special conditions. And she kept in place many of the other conditions previously set by Judge Lethbridge. The conditions that remained in place is there would be no contact with Patricia Carter. Defendant McIver still had to surrender his passport.
Had he not already?
He had already surrendered it. She kept it in place because part of this modification motion had to deal with his ability to travel. She kept in place no firearms or weapons. And this was also signed by defendant McIver. These amendments were actually prepared by the Honorable Attorney Hill. And in his own hand, he wrote, "I acknowledge and understand the conditions of bond," right above the signature line for the defendant for which he signed, and then printed out his name. And I have marked this as State's Exhibit number 2. It is a certified copy. I'd like to tender it to the court.
Okay. Mr. Maples, any objection to State's 2?
No, Your Honor.
Admitted.
Your Honor, we are here on a motion to revoke bond because on April the 14th, 2017 was a Friday, a week ago today. The state, pursuant to, we would contend, a validly signed search warrant for the residence of Mr. McIver at 3435 Kingsborough, Northeast, condo units number 1501 and 1502, located within Fulton County, Atlanta, Georgia. During the course of the execution of that search warrant, a firearm was found in this location. It was found in the master bedroom of condo 1501. It was found in the closet for the defendant, Mr. McIver, where he keeps his personal clothing items, ties, shirts, suits, pants, shoes. And it was found in a dresser drawer that contained socks. It was his sock drawer. The handgun was contained within a Glock plastic box. Underneath, a whole bunch of socks. That weapon was seen visually by many witnesses who were there, including investigators from the DA's office, as well as Ms. Tammy Johnson, who the court will hear from very shortly. Because the scope of the search at that time, Your Honor, authorized the state to look for documents, the weapon was not seized at that time. We finished the execution of the warrant. We left a copy of the warrant with Ms. Johnson. We left Ms. Johnson there at the location. We backed out, obtained a second search warrant to go back and collect the gun as well as any other ammunition. We executed that search warrant at the condo on Monday, April 17th. A few days later. And when we got to the condominium, the gun was gone. The box was gone, and so we kind of came up empty. We have since had an opportunity to speak with Ms. Johnson. I won't belabor you by what her expected testimony will be. You'll just get a chance to hear from her. But the state will be arguing, Your Honor, based on the Supreme Court case of Ayala versus the state, which I know you're familiar with, that sets out the factors for bond. And the state will be asking the court to revoke the bond of Mr. McIver for a couple of very specific reasons. One, he has demonstrated an intentional disregard for the court's order. And it's particularly egregious in this case because he is a lawyer. Member of the state bar, he's very, very familiar with court orders and what they mean and their significance. Two, his actions demonstrate a tremendous safety concern in which I would argue to the court his actions pose a danger to others, as we'll be able to demonstrate with testimonial evidence. We're going to show evidence that shows a propensity for this dangerous conduct, and we're going to present evidence, Your Honor, and testimony to show that there is an attempt to tamper with evidence, improperly influence witnesses, and that this was done at the direction of the defendant. And so if the court would allow, I'd like to call my first witness.
Okay. And I had indicated when we were talking about logistics that maybe we'd hold off on Ms. Johnson, but we may want to front load that.
Okay.
I'm mindful of what time it is,
Right.
And the day of the week it is.
Right.
If there are ways we can streamline things from both sides,
Okay.
that would be great. And so you may want to confer briefly with Mr. Hill, and I'll give Mr. Maples a chance to give his opening statement before you call a witness.
Okay.
But for example, if the defense is not contending that there was no gun, put differently, if they're acknowledging that, in fact, you did see a gun, you did photograph a gun, we may not need to call 15 people to say, I saw a gun.
Right.
What would become of interest is, why was it there? Who knew it was there?
Exactly.
Why did it leave? Where did it go? And that may not take so many witnesses.
Right.
I'm not asking anyone to concede anything they think they should fight, but I am asking people to be wise.
Right.
And if photos show a gun in the apartment, I don't know that we need to have 5 witnesses testify to that.
Right.
I'm not going to keep you from making
Right.
the proof you want. I'm not going to keep the defense from making whatever arguments it wants to make. But we've got some very experienced, wise attorneys here, and let's use that wisdom to focus on really the nub of the point, which is why was the gun there, and who knew it was there. With that, Mr. Maples, I'd like to hear from you to give your perspective, the defense perspective on what we're dealing with, and then we'll get into witnesses.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
Your Honor, Mr. McIver is 74 years of age. He's lived in the Atlanta area since 1967. He graduated from Texas Christian University in 1965. He graduated from the University of Texas Law School in 1968. He was commissioned in the United States Air Force in the JAG. He served in 1970, 1971. He served in the Republic of South Vietnam as a JAG. And upon his release, when he got out of the service, he came to Atlanta. He took a job with Fisher Phillips as a labor lawyer. He's been a labor lawyer up until the time he was arrested on December the 21st, and of course he consequently was asked to leave the firm on December the 31st. He was previously married one time before and was divorced in started divorce proceedings in about 1995. He subsequently purchased a ranch. It's approximately 100 acres. I call it a farm. He calls it a ranch. The difference depends upon where you were raised. He was raised in Texas. I was raised in Alabama. In Alabama, it's a farm, not a ranch.
So it doesn't matter whether it's horses versus cows, it's Alabama versus Georgia.
Pretty much.
Okay.
So he moved into the condos that he's presently living in, somewhere about 1995, and when the late Mrs. McIver moved in about 2002, he met her. He was on the welcoming committee, welcoming her in. Met her at that time. They began dating at the end of 2002, and they subsequently married on November the 5th, 2005. And according to every witness that we're going to present, every witness I've ever spoken to, they said that they had an ideal marriage. It was a marriage that all of us should have. They loved one another. There was never a cruel word. There was never a cross word. They normally, rather than doing a lot of other things, they usually use the weekend to go to the ranch down in Putnam County, and that's what happened in this particular case. They had spent the weekend at the ranch. They returned back on Sunday, September the 25th. They were coming up. They had stopped, had lunch or dinner. They played golf all day at the Oconee at the Reynolds Plantation. They played from about 12 to about 6. They had lunch or dinner at the Outback, and they started driving back. Mrs. McIver's best friend, Danny Joe Carter, was driving. Mrs. McIver was in the front passenger seat, and Mr. McIver was in the back seat. All testimony is that he went to sleep almost immediately upon leaving the Outback. It was almost 9:30 when they left. He's 74 years of age. He tired. He went to sleep. And when they came in on I-20 West, they turned north on I-85, but the state was resurfacing 95, so they got off at the first available exit. And somewheres on Piedmont, right about 12th Street, Mr. Carter stopped for a light, and Mr. McIver had a pistol in his lap, and the pistol went off, or was accidentally fired. There was no argument, there was no quarrel. He was, according to Mr. Carter, he was asleep at the time. She stopped for the traffic light, and the first thing she heard was the explosion. It appeared Mrs. McIver had been shot. They rushed her immediately over to Emory Hospital, and she was there in the emergency room. I met Mr. McIver there. I met Danny Joe there. The emergency room physician came out at 10:30, and she said that she had talked to Diane, told her that she was going up for surgery, that she needed surgery, and you asked Diane if she had any questions, and Diane said it was an accident. Mr. McIver went upstairs to the waiting room. He waited until about 1:30, and then at that time, 2 surgeons came in and said that she had died. Danny Joe went with the police. She gave a complete statement, an audio taped interview. I came back home. I had to go to court that morning. I couldn't do an interview. And then on Wednesday, September the 28th, Mr. McIver went to the Atlanta Police Department, and he gave a full videotaped, audio-taped interview with 2 detectives. And we intend to introduce a transcript of Detective Darren Smith, who's the chief investigating detective in this case, and he says that that Mr. McIver's statement is exactly the same as Mrs. Carter. It's consistent with all the forensic evidence in the case, and basically he concluded it was an accident.
But
The
we've
court-
got a bond in place that says no gun.
Is there?
And there's maybe a gun in the residence, so
Well, it said-
that's what I want us to
Okay.
focus on.
Well, Mr. Rucker was from the district attorney's office, is the one that went to the initial appearance at the Fulton County Jail, and he was arguing no bond. Under no circumstances should it be given a bond. And it was only at Mr. Rucker's insistence that the magistrate even set a bond. And so in order, that's where the conditions came from Mr. Rucker's insistence. For example, in this case, Mr. Rucker insisted that Mr. McIver not have any contact with any of the employees at Corey Enterprises. Now, that's where Diane McIver worked. There's about 35 employees, and Mr. Rucker spoke to all 35 employees, saying that Mr. McIver, who had numerous friends there, worked with Diane there, been there back and forth, he couldn't contact anybody that worked there. So what I'm saying is these conditions were imposed as a result of Mr. Rucker's insistence.
So two different judges said, Mr. McIver, no guns. Mr. McIver signed both those bond orders saying, I understand that. Now we have possibly a gun in the residence. It sounds like the issue we're working through. So it may well be that it was Mr. Rucker's effective advocacy that got a judge to say, here's a condition. But
Yes.
it's a condition wherever it came from, and we're not here today to say it shouldn't have been there. It was there.
Yes.
It is there, and the state is saying it was violated.
Well, on January the 30th, there was a hearing. And it was a hearing on our motion just simply to clarify the conditions of bond. We did not ask to remove the firearm prohibition.
And it wasn't.
Well, we didn't ask for it. That's what I'm saying. What we asked for is that the removal of the ankle monitor so that he could fly, because he had clients throughout the United States that he needed to be able to fly to, and he couldn't go through the airport with an ankle monitor. So we asked that, and we asked for very limited removal on this. And of course, the judge took away this no contact with all the employees of the Corey business or Corey Enterprises. And also one of the conditions was he couldn't even have contact with the single sole employee of his ranch in Putnam County, which had absolutely nothing to do with nothing at any time. And remember, the primary consideration of a bond is to guarantee the defendant's appearance. Now, the state has argued on December the 22nd, and then there was a hearing before Judge Russell in which the state filed a motion to prohibit an estate sale of Mrs. McIver's items. And Mr. Rucker stood up, and at that time he argued that Mr. McIver was a flight risk. Judge Russell pointed out, well, he's sitting here, he's not really a flight risk. We went back on January the 30th, and Mr. Rucker insisted that he was a flight risk at that time.
But I
And
haven't
so
heard him say that today. So if we could get
He
back.
will. It's in the written motion.
Okay.
And so this is the fourth hearing in which the state has alleged that Mr. McIver is a flight risk.
Well, let me put your mind at ease. I'm not particularly concerned about Mr. McIver's risk of flight. He's here. He's
Okay.
been here always. And so if I hear evidence that suggests there ought to be a concern in that direction, that's fine. But what I heard Mr. Rucker emphasizing was safety, disregarding not one but two court orders, something about evidence tampering, and we'll see where that goes. But the centerpiece is the gun, not a passport, not a jet taking him far away. It's the gun. And that's what I'd like us to focus on.
Okay. Mr. Rucker was at the search on the residence on April the 14th. Mr. Rucker was one that saw the gun was photographed, and they stayed for a number of hours. He left, and Tammy Lee Johnson gave a telephone call, wanted to know what to do with the gun. She was told to take it out and turn it over to her attorney.
Okay,
And
well,
her-
let's wait till people testify about that.
Okay. But what I'm saying is that the state has left a great big gap there. And what happened was that she was told to turn it over, and she has turned it over.
Okay, but
why
that's the point of the hearing, is for me to hear that from Ms. Johnson if she's going to testify.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Rucker, your first witness.
Yes, Judge. the state would call Investigator Brian Salters. Okay. And taking into consideration your comment earlier, I will take heed.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir. I'd like to place something on the record while the witness is coming in. Your Honor, I do intend to show the court the actual firearm. I will represent to the court and on the record that I have shown it to the deputy. I believe she stepped outside. She's checked it to make sure it was safe. There is a lock placed through the firing mechanism. It can't be fired. There's no ammunition. But I just wanted to let you know that without springing it on you.
The firearm that wasn't seized, you now have?
I'll be able to explain that too through a witness.
All right, let's have some witnesses.
All right.
So turn around, face me, raise your right hand. Do you swear firm testimony about giving court the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
If you will for the court, the state, and spell your first and last name.
Brian Salters, B-R-I-A-N, Salters, S-A-L-T-E-R-S.
Good afternoon, Investigator Salters.
Good afternoon, sir.
Could you indicate to the judge how you're currently employed?
I'm currently employed as a criminal investigator with the Atlanta Judicial Circuit, also known as the Fulton County District Attorney's Office.
How long have you been employed in that capacity?
3 years.
And can you tell the judge, on last Friday, April the 14th, 2017, did you participate in the execution of a search warrant at the Kingsborough Road location for the defendant, Claude Lee McIver?
Yes, I did.
Can you tell the judge whether or not that location is within the jurisdictional boundaries of Fulton County?
Yes, Judge, it is. It's within the city of Atlanta.
And
The
can you,
Fulton County part of the city of Atlanta?
Yes, it is. Fulton County part, not the DeKalb part.
Okay.
okay. And can you tell the judge your participation in the execution of the search warrant in a nutshell was what?
My participation was I came in a manner to assist units that were on the scene as the evidence custodian for the district attorney's office. So I guess they felt that I should be there. So upon arrival, I was able to assist investigators that were on scene. One of the units that was on scene checked one part of the condo while I checked the master bedroom area.
Okay. And the master bedroom, do you recall which condominium number that was?
I'm sorry, I do not.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this. The search that you conducted in the master bedroom of the condominium, were you wearing any gloves?
Yes, I was.
And why were you wearing gloves?
I was wearing gloves so as not to taint anything that may possibly be deemed evidentiary.
Like what?
Whether it be disc, whether it be any other type of item that was defined in the scope, whether it be computer monitors or anything, documents, any of those items that were articulated in the search warrant.
Okay. And by wearing gloves, would you leave your fingerprints on any item that you touched?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, I want to direct your attention really specifically to the closet in the master bedroom of the condominium where you searched and ask you, did you conduct a search in the master bedroom closet?
Yes, I did, sir.
Did you see clothing items in the closet?
Yes, I did.
Did the clothing items appear to be male clothing?
Yes, sir.
And explain to the judge how you could discern that.
Well, they were, most of the shirts were pressed pretty nicely. The boots in the closet were almost military style, covered, aligned. Everything was pretty aligned to the right, so to speak.
Okay. See any neckties?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Other personal items?
Yes, sir.
Did you also see a dresser?
Yes, sir.
And can you tell the judge, did the dresser have drawers to it?
Yes, sir. It had several drawers, approximately 6 or so. It was white with handles on it.
And what was contained inside the drawers, generally speaking?
Generally, there were socks, which appeared to be men's socks, men's boxers, men's boxer briefs, different type of underwear.
Okay. And can you tell the judge, during the search of this dresser, did you actually look into the drawer and find an item that you came and brought to my attention?
Yes, I did.
Can you tell the judge what was it that you actually saw with your own eyes?
Well, I saw under in the left corner of the sock drawer what appeared to be a Glock container. Only familiar with it from being in law enforcement. So I brought to attention of Mr. Rucker that there was a gun contained in the drawer, or what may possibly be a gun contained in the drawer.
So what you saw was not a gun, it was a box that Glock firearms are typically sold in or come in.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what did you do?
As I was looking through the other parts of the drawer, I looked through the box that, the Glock box also.
And when you looked inside the Glock box, what did you find?
I found a Glock.
What is a Glock?
A Glock is a brand of firearm. So more specifically, I found, I believe it to be a Glock 19, which is, according to the nomenclature on the upper receiver of the Glock, was a 9mm. The weapon did not have a magazine in it, nor did it have any rounds in the chamber.
Were there magazines contained within the box?
If I recall correctly, there were 2 magazines in the carrying case.
Okay. And the carrying case for the 9mm Glock, is that a semi-automatic handgun?
Yes, it's a semi-automatic handgun.
Okay. Is that carrying case big enough to conceal computer disk?
Yes, it is.
How about other papers or documents?
Yes, it is.
Things that were within the scope of the search warrant?
Yes, sir.
That box is,
Objection to the conclusion.
Overruled.
that box was big enough to hide or secret items that you were actually authorized to look for within the scope of the search?
Namely, a USB port. It was big enough, definitely, to have a USB port in it.
Okay. Did I ask you to do something with respect to the gun before we looked at it at all?
No, I went ahead and photographed it. I called our photographer who was there to photograph it just to show that this is what was contained therein.
Okay. Did you check it to make sure it was safe?
Oh, certainly, certainly.
Okay.
Certainly.
Okay. And you were wearing gloves while you did this?
Yes, I was.
All right. I'd like to show you a series of photographs. They've already been shown around to the defense counsel. I'll show them to the witness. For the record, they are marked as state's exhibits number 3, 4, 5, and 6. Do you recognize those?
Yes, I do.
And how is it that you recognize those exhibits?
This depicts the closet that I was in last Friday.
Okay. And in state's exhibit number 3, what is depicted?
It's depicted a open drawer that contains socks and what looks to be a Glock box.
Okay. How about state's exhibit number 4? What's depicted in that photo?
The same items are depicted, except I'd moved the socks to demonstrate what was being concealed by the socks.
Okay. And how about state's exhibit 5?
I'd opened the box to make the weapon safe and to ensure that it was indeed safe. And it's just exposing the firearm in and of itself without a magazine and or a chamber in the round.
Okay.
Or a round in the chamber, rather.
All right. What's state's exhibit number 6?
State's Exhibit 6 is a close-up photo of the upper and lower receiver of the Glock to include the serial number of the Glock and the altered pistol grip, which contained a laser.
Can you tell the judge whether or not all of these photos fairly and accurately reflect what you saw when you looked into that drawer inside of the bedroom of the condo?
They do, sir.
All right. I would tender, Your Honor, for the purposes of this hearing, state's exhibits number 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Mr. Maples, other than your continuing objection, which is preserved, do you have objections to the admission of states 3 through 6?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, they're admitted.
Thank you. I want to show you another exhibit. And before I do that, I want to give Mr. Hill and Mr. Maples an opportunity to see it. Explain that. After having shown State's Exhibit number 9, Your Honor, for the purposes of the record to the defense counsel, I want to display it to the witness. I'm going to ask you to take a look at State's Exhibit number 9 and tell the judge whether or not you recognize and can identify it.
I recognize the cotton or whatever material bag this is wherein the weapon was actually contained inside this. It appears to be the same item that I reviewed last Friday.
Okay. And, Your Honor, would you mind passing me back State's Exhibit 6?
You bet.
Would you take a look at State's Exhibit number 6 that contains a serial number? Would you confirm that that weapon is actually the same gun that you saw inside the condo?
Yes, sir. As per the provided reference States Exhibit number 6, the serial number matches KBU 446.
That is in fact the same weapon?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Okay? Yes.
It also has the same
Yes, okay. I'm
infrared
sorry.
sight on it.
Right. You mentioned something about there being a laser sight on the weapon. Can you explain that to the judge?
Well, from prior law enforcement training and experience, looking at this particular weapon, I recognized that there was a laser on the pistol grip. This is not come like this from the factory generally, unless, of course, someone may have had it altered from the factory, but it's not standard issue. Once you put your hand around the pistol grip, upon applying pressure.
And would you just point at the wall and show the judge?
You can line up the sight.
I heard that before.
All right. Can you tell the judge, at that time, did you seize that weapon and take it into the custody of either yourself or a representative of the Fulton County DA's office?
I did not.
What did you do?
I photographed it and made sure I articulated through photograph that the weapon was where it was found, to show it was found in the closet, to show that it was to get the appropriate nomenclature from the weapon, which is the G19 on it, the make, saying that it was made by Glock, saying that it was the serial numbers on the box, and just to ensure that if indeed we needed the weapon again to possibly secure another search warrant, we could do so, seeing as how I did not find any item that was specifically articulated in the search warrant inside of the box.
Okay. And can you tell the judge, did you find any ammunition in that drawer or any other drawers that you looked in?
I did not find any ammunition in that drawer, but I did find ammunition close to the exit of the closet near the light switch.
And did you collect the ammunition that you saw close to the light switch in the closet?
Again, I did not, based upon the, I looked in it, I did not find anything that was articulated in the initial search warrant.
Okay.
So I photographed it.
All right.
Or had it photographed, rather.
Had it photographed?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Now, you are aware that a second search was conducted at that same location a couple of days later.
Yes, I am.
Did you participate in the execution of that second search warrant?
I did not.
All right.
What was the caliber, excuse me, of the ammunition?
I didn't inspect it that way. I moved it was in a clear cup, almost like a solo cup, except maybe it was only 4 to 6 ounces cup, a clear cup.
So you don't know if it even would... Okay.
And because you didn't participate in the second search, you don't know whether or not pursuant to the second search and that validly issued warrant for ammunition, that ammunition was seized. Do
I
you
don't
know?
I don't.
You don't know. Let me ask one other question for the judge's edification. While we were there inside the condo, When you showed me the handgun that's right there in front of you, State's Exhibit number 9, who else was the weapon shown to?
It was shown to the, I guess, the agent of record, if you would call her that, Miss Tammy. She was made aware that the weapon was there. I believe she took a photo also.
Right. Do you remember how it was she was able to get in a position to take a photo of it?
We permitted her to come in and view what it was we found.
Right. And she came in to the closet, right?
Yes, sir.
And do you recall her demeanor, or do you recall anything she said when you showed her that handgun?
I do.
Tell the judge what she said.
She said, "Oh my God." And she said I can't remember whose name she was calling out, but she said she was going to speak with the attorney in reference to it. And something else about, I don't want to mischaracterize what she said, but this changes something or something, she said.
Changes something.
Yes. Or I knew you guys were looking for something like this, and she made reference to something about a shooting that occurred with a pigeon or something on the balcony that I didn't know anything about, but I recall her saying, you guys think this is about shooting at a bird or something.
She made reference to shooting at a bird.
She did. I didn't know anything about any of that.
Right.
It was a totally unsolicited response.
Right. Did you hear her make any comments with respect to whether or not she had herself previously searched that drawer?
I believe, I can't recall, but I do know that she was,
Judge, I
Yes, sir.
believe that Ms. Johnson is going to testify, and I believe that they can connect it up. But in the event that she's not here and she does not testify, I would like to have an objection to hearsay if she moved to have all of this testimony as to what Mrs. Johnson may or may not have said stricken if she's not available for cross-examination.
So prospectively, unless you have an exception to hearsay, let's not ask Investigator Salters anything more about what Ms. Johnson said. But I'm happy to hear you out if you think there's an exception.
No, she's
It
here.
sounds like we'll hear from Ms. Johnson.
She's here.
Great.
Yep, thank you. That's all my questions.
Okay. Mr. Maples, do you have questions for Investigator Salters?
Yes. Good afternoon, Mr. Salter.
good evening, sir.
And you were executing a search warrant on Mr. McIver's residence on Friday afternoon?
Yes, sir.
What time did you enter the condo?
I do not recall specifically, but it is written down.
It's what?
I do not recall specifically, but it is written down.
Where?
I believe it is in Investigator Troy Grisby's notes.
Okay. Was anybody present in the condominium when you arrived?
Yes.
Who?
Sitting outside was Adam Abate, and ADA for the Fulton DA's office, and Miss Tammy was sitting outside as I got off the elevator.
Miss who?
Tammy.
Was she there, or did she arrive after?
She was there. I arrived after everyone got there.
Okay, so there were people that had arrived before you got there?
Yes, sir.
To execute the search warrant?
Yes, sir.
All right. So you don't know what time the entry team effected entry, do you?
I sure do not.
Okay, who was part of the search team?
When I got there, Investigator Troy Grisby was the DA's investigator that was there.
Yes, sir. Who else?
Rico, the videographer, he was there.
Who else?
Also there at the location was Clint Rucker and Adam Abate from the DA's office. I'm not sure I would characterize them as a search team, though.
Anyone else?
No, sir.
That's all?
No, sir. That's
Is
it.
that all that was there?
That's it.
Executing the search warrant?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, you said that when you got
Now,
there-
later, my supervisor arrived, John Griffin.
Okay. Who else participated in the search warrant?
To my ready recollection right now, that was it.
And you said you went into the master bedroom, right?
Yes, sir.
And within the master bedroom, there is a large walk-in closet, correct?
Yes, sir.
And within that large walk-in closet, what you found were men's clothes.
Yes, sir.
And in there, there was a built-in dresser within the walk-in closet, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that dresser has 8 drawers, doesn't it?
I know there was several drawers. If you're saying it's 8, I don't know. I don't have a
If there are
record.
6 stacked up from the floor, and then there are 2 smaller ones at the top, 6 plus 2 would be 8, right?
All day, sir.
You agree with this?
Certainly.
Okay. And the drawer that you found the Glock in was the second from the bottom, correct?
I do believe so, sir.
And do we have the exhibits?
Right up here. We'll
Okay.
put them on
Could I
this
get-
table so they're available to all.
Okay, thank you. And may I approach the witness, please?
Sure.
Look at State's Exhibit number 3. That's the drawer in which you found the Glock, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that appears to be a white sock drawer, right?
Yes, sir.
There are no dress socks in there, right?
Not that I recall.
Yeah. Men that dress in suits usually have black socks or perhaps a navy blue sock that are called dress socks, right?
I would say yes.
And they would normally be expected to wear white socks in athletic adventures.
Most men, yes, sir.
Okay. And that is, you would agree with me that that appears to be the white sock drawer, right?
It has several athletic socks in it, yes, sir.
Yes. And now, would you agree with me that that drawer is approximately 22 3/4 inches wide? Did you measure it?
No, I did not.
Or does that appear to be a correct measurement?
What did you say, 23?
22 3/4 inches wide.
I would say I could fit 2 Subway footlongs in there, yes, sir.
Yeah, just, okay. And it's about 15 inches
I'm sorry,
deep,
I'm
correct?
not that. I would, 15 inches?
Deep.
I think you've been a little generous there, I'm not sure.
And it's about, would you
At least
agree?
8 to 10, I would say.
Sir?
I would say maybe 8 to 10, deep.
Deep? Is there
But I
some
didn't-
reason,
I
is there
didn't
some
measure it.
reason you didn't measure it?
No, I wasn't there to measure it.
Okay. All right, then would you agree that it's about 4.5 inches high?
I cannot say, sir.
Okay, well, let's talk about what you can say. What about the Glock? The
Okay.
Glock box, would you agree, is about 10.5 inches wide?
Yes, sir.
Would you agree it's about 9 1/4 inch deep?
Yes, sir.
And would you agree that it's 2 1/4 inches high?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so, if that is correct, there's only 2 inches difference from the top of the Glock box to the top of the dresser drawer, right?
I don't remember the dimensions from what you just said prior to that, sir.
Okay. Well, what we're suggesting is that there couldn't be a whole lot of clothes on top of it, could there?
Just socks on top of it, no.
There's socks on top of it, okay.
Yes, sir.
And with that pistol, let's see. You know something about Glocks?
Yes, I do.
You like Glocks?
Surely do.
Okay, and you're post certified?
I surely am.
May I have the pictures? All right, let me show you State's Exhibit number 6. And this appears to be a photograph of the Glock Model 19, which is a 9mm by 19mm pistol, correct?
I know it's a Glock 19, yes, sir.
All right.
The
Well,
total
that-
nomenclature, I do not know.
Well, it's a 9mm pistol, correct?
Yes, sir.
And the shell casing is 19mm high, right?
I do not know, sir.
But does it suggest to you that might be where they get the term Model 19? No? Okay. Right, so, now you know that on a Glock, these things come out of a manufacturing plant. Do you know which manufacturing plant this came out of?
I sure don't.
Okay.
It
But
may
it
be
should,
Smyrna, it may be Austria.
yes. It shows a serial number on the on the pistol, correct?
It shows several serial numbers on the
Yeah,
pistol.
it shows
at
one
different
on the
locations.
frame.
Yes, sir.
And it shows one on the receiver?
Yes, sir. One on the lower receiver, one on the upper receiver, and one on the barrel.
And all of those serial numbers are the same?
Yes, sir.
And that's KBU 446, like Kilo Bravo Uniform 446, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, do you have a photograph of the box that these were seized in?
Do I have a photograph of the box?
Yes.
I do know that they were photographed, whether or not they've been exhibited.
Well, let's look at it. Now, you know that when Glock manufactures these, all Glocks are sent in a black plastic box, correct?
That has been my experience, yes, sir.
Okay. And on that box, if you'll look at the front of this box, they have a sticker, correct?
Yes.
And that sticker tells us a couple of things about this pistol, correct? In other words, it gives us the serial number of the pistol, right?
It should, yes, sir.
And the serial number on this box does not match the serial number on the pistol, does it?
This is KD, or rather KBU, this is GDX.
Yes, sir. So the serial number on the box is GDX 984, like is in Golf Delta X-Ray 984,
Yes,
correct?
Yes, sir.
So it's obvious the serial number doesn't, on the box, doesn't match the pistol that you have, does it?
Does not.
Okay. Now, let's look at the rest of that sticker that goes on it. Now, you're familiar with the fact that Glock Model 19s come in 3 different colors, right?
I'm not. I don't know.
Well, you've heard that they come in a blued, right?
I'm not that intimately familiar with the
Well-
manufacturing of Glock.
I didn't ask you about the manufacturing. I'm asking you about Glocks. They
So
come
do you
also-
know they come in 3 different colors?
I do not.
He doesn't. Next question.
Have you ever heard that they come in desert?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever heard that they come in green OD or olive drab?
I've heard the desert, but I don't know about the olive drab.
Okay. And blue, you know what a blue pistol or revolver is, don't you?
I do not.
All right. Black?
Yes.
Okay, you know black. Okay. Well, look at the case on this, and what color did they say that this pistol was?
It says green.
Green OD is what it says. Green for OD for olive drab, right? Now look at the pistol that you have in front of you, and there's no way in the world that that could be an olive drab or green pistol, could it?
It is a black pistol.
Yes. So based on the serial number, based on the fact that the manufacturer said that the pistol in that box was green, that obviously is not the pistol that came in that box. Would you agree?
I would agree.
Now, you did not find any shells in that firearm.
No, I did not.
Is that firearm, in your estimation, is it operable?
I wouldn't be able to say unless I test fired it.
And you've never test fired it?
I have not.
So you've never examined to see if it had a firing pin, for example, right?
I photographed the weapon. I did not examine the weapon to see if it had a firing pin.
So you offer no opinion as to whether or not it is or is not operable, correct?
Correct. It appears to be.
Have you run an ATF? Have you had an ATF agent run a check on this pistol and this box?
Have I? No, sir.
Okay. The ammunition, there was no ammunition in the closet, but you said as you were going out, you saw 2 rounds. I'm sorry. How many? You said you saw
I said I
ammunition?
saw. Yeah, I said I saw multiple rounds inside of a cup.
In a what?
I said I saw multiple rounds inside of a clear cup.
In a clear
plastic
cup. Did you take a photograph of that?
Yes.
Where's that?
Or rather, I had the photographer take a photograph.
Okay, where's that photograph?
I would assume it's here.
Okay. You never examined it to see what caliber or what type of ammunition it was, did you?
I wasn't there looking for ammunition, no, sir.
You're not willing, you're not prepared to offer an opinion that that ammunition was capable of being fired through a 9mm Glock, are you?
I'm not.
Well, let me ask this. Did anybody ever dust that pistol for fingerprints?
You mean?
Fingerprints, you know, like the things we have on the end of our fingers.
Oh, I think I'm familiar with fingerprints.
Yes, sir.
Again, I photographed the weapon. I did not have anything to do with the weapon being obtained subsequent to a second search warrant, as previously stated.
All right. Have you ever run fingerprints before?
Have I run fingerprints?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
You've dusted for fingerprints?
Yes, I have.
Look at that pistol. You'd be able to look at that pistol immediately and tell whether or not it's been dusted for fingerprints, wouldn't you?
Would I be able to look at it and tell?
Anybody would.
It depends on what type of dust is used.
So my understanding, Mr. Maples, is that the gun disappeared, who knows what happened to it while it was gone, and right now you're contending, look, it doesn't look like it's been dusted for fingerprints. I don't know where we're going with this. This isn't someone who fingerprinted it, he photographed it in the
Yes.
story. Didn't seize it, it wasn't there when they went back.
Yes.
So I'm interested in hearing how it's in court now, but this isn't the right witness for that.
Is it? Okay. There's no indication that pistol's ever been fingerprinted, though, is there?
I don't see any GBI stickers on it, and I don't see any of our stickers that say we took it to a lab.
It was not sent to a lab?
Again, sir, this is my first time seeing this weapon since I saw it on Friday. I cannot tell you the chain of custody for this weapon.
To your knowledge, information, or belief, has anyone in the district attorney's office run a ATF check on this pistol, on the serial number, both on the pistol itself and or on the box?
To my knowledge,
Yes, sir.
I don't know what has happened to this weapon from the time that it has been seized up until right now.
All right. Thank you.
Well, you're not the lawyer asking the questions.
Skip, just a moment.
I guess I'm asking you, just to your knowledge, information, or belief, whether by hearsay or by any means whatsoever, have you heard any contention whatsoever ever made that anyone in the district attorney's office has attempted to have the ATF, you know what the ATF is, right?
Yes, I do.
Run a check on this pistol?
I would assume someone has.
Okay. But you don't know that?
No, sir.
All right, thank you.
Any redirect of Investigator Salters?
I just have one really quick question. On cross-examination, you responded to a question posed to you by Mr. Maples, and your response was that you would not characterize me or Mr. Abadi as part of the search team.
Exactly.
Tell the judge what you mean by that.
Judge, I would object to the conclusion as to, he's already made conclusions as to whether or not he was within the confines of the parameters of the search warrant, which is really a judicial function. I objected to it on the basis that it calls for a conclusion, and this similarly calls for a conclusion as to whether or not Mr. Rucker was or was not on the search team. That's a function of the court to make that determination.
Okay. I'm going to allow the witness to explain an answer he gave to your question. So you heard the question. Are you able to answer that?
I am. I believe he characterized every person there as being a member of the, quote, search team. I did not articulate either of the assistant district attorneys and or the photographer as a member of the search team. I qualified that statement by saying that I, along with Investigator Grisby, were conducting the search.
Right. And in fact, when you arrive on scene,
You
what
were
was
sitting
myself,
outside.
Mr. Abadi, and Tammy Johnson doing?
Sitting outside chewing the fat.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Investigator Salters. Next witness.
Yes.
Do you want this secured?
Please secure it.
9 hasn't been admitted, so he should either take it with him, or if you want to admit it.
I'll admit it for the
Okay.
purpose of this hearing.
So, Mr. Maples, subject to your continuing objection, do you have any other reason to seek to exclude States 9, the Glock box and its purported contents?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. 9 is admitted. I'm going to ask that that stay with the district attorney's office.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
not going to ask Ms. Price to become the custodian of the firearm.
Of course, that's still contingent upon Ms. Tammy Johnson testifying, which we've been assured she will.
Hopefully soon.
Yes, sir.
You want me to just leave it in
Will
the
you
custody
secure
of
it,
the?
and if you would just take custody of it, and if you would transfer it to our chief investigator, Wacocha, who's sitting right here in the front row.
Most certainly. Maybe excuse. Yep, thank you.
And for the record, did you place all the contents back inside the box?
Yes, I did, sir.
Thank you. Judge, the state is going to call Ms. Tammy Johnson.
Okay. Is she, I guess we're done with the conference room, so she should just be outside? If we could get Ms. Johnson, please.
Now, you turn around, face me, and raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm testimony about giving the court the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
You will for the court, state, and spell your first and last name.
Tammy Johnson, TammyJohnson.
You have a seat there.
May I proceed, Judge?
Yes, sir.
Could you start first by introducing yourself to the judge, by restating your name, and tell him how you are currently employed?
Tammy Johnson, I'm currently the estate manager of Diane McIver.
But you have other employment as well, because I know we
I do.
inconvenienced you today by having you be down here. What else do you do?
Interior design, I flip houses for clients, commercial properties.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
On short notice.
It's okay.
Yes. Can you tell the judge when or about when did you become the estate manager for the estate of Diane McIver?
Second to third week in October, I believe.
Okay. And just very generally speaking, how did that occur?
My girlfriend called me and said that her sister-in-law had passed away and could I help out.
And who was your girlfriend?
Dixie Martin,
And who is Dixie Martin
the sister of Tex,
of Mr. McIver?
Mr. McIver.
And so you were brought on to do what exactly?
To help them in the inventory for her clothing, jewelry, furs, to just assist them because they were all in chaos.
And you would have begun those activities sometime the second or third week of October
I believe so, yes.
of 2016.
Yes.
Now, I want to ask you if in connection with the things you did you inventory the condominium 1501 located at 3435 Kingsborough Road?
Yes.
And when you say you inventory that condominium, can you kind of help the judge understand what did you do?
Basically went through every drawer, every closet, every suitcase, every purse she had. Started it that way.
Okay.
So you ended the sentence with "she had." So if there was an area of the Kingsborough residence that was obviously Mr. McIver's, a closet full of his clothes, would you have inventoried that as well, or would you have left that closet alone?
We did not inventory it, but we did go through it.
Difference being,
I
you
didn't.
didn't write it
I did
down,
not.
but you would open every drawer, look in it, touch things, just not
That is
make a
correct.
list.
Now, just for the purposes of this hearing, can you tell the judge Diane McIver also maintained a storage unit in connection with another individual that was located in DeKalb County.
Yes,
Okay. And you have keys and the ability to access the condominium there on Kingsborough Road,
yes,
as well as the public storage unit there in DeKalb County.
yes.
Okay. And can you tell the judge on or about April the 14th of 2017, about a week ago, actually about this time last week, we were kind of all together, weren't we?
Yes, we were.
Okay. And can you tell the judge what time did you arrive there at the condo?
I believe it was right around 4 o'clock.
Okay. And why did you come to the condo?
The concierge called me to let you all in.
Okay. And you were made aware that we had a search warrant that was signed by a judge?
Yes,
And can you tell the judge when you arrived there on the 15th floor, did you see me?
I did.
What was I doing?
Sitting in the chair. I believe you were on your phone.
Okay. And can you tell the judge, were you kind enough to give us access to the condo?
I was.
Now, I referenced condominium number 1501, but there's a second condominium that's at issue, which is 1502. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, for the judge who hasn't been there before, can you explain to him how those two condominiums are connected?
Yes, it's it was two separate condos that they have made into one.
Okay.
So you could, if you went in 1502, walls have been altered such that you could walk all the way to 1501.
That is correct.
And when you provided us access to those two condominiums, did we go in through 1501 or 1502?
1502,
How come?
because the 1501, the lock is broken.
Okay. And so once we made, you gave us access to 1502, which gives us access to 1501, did we give you an opportunity to really read through the warrant before we really did anything?
Yes.
Okay. And what happened after that?
There was a man that came into video.
And what did he do?
He walked around video, then he came back out, and I believe, I don't remember the gentleman's name, he asked me if I could go find all the light switches.
Okay. And did you?
I did.
Okay. And then what happened?
I believe then two people came in and started looking around,
Okay.
and then,
Okay.
I'm confused by one of the things you were asked to do. Find light switches, meaning they're secret hidden light switches, or why
Well,
would
they're-
someone ask that?
they're not the easiest to find.
Okay. So your help was needed just to make sure things were illuminated well enough that people could film, search, etc.
A lot of them are on dimmers, and the switches they're a little bit old, so it's hard to get them up to get
Okay.
the full light on.
It's because you were there.
Yes. And I expressed to you many times how appreciative I was for the assistance you gave us, didn't I?
You did, but you all didn't bring me Chick-fil-A, remember?
You weren't supposed to tell anybody.
I'm sorry.
Now, during the course of the searching of those two condominiums, you were kind enough to kind of point out to us things that belong to Diane McIver, correct? Like boxes and...
Yes, when you asked me.
Yes. And you told us about things that belong to Mr. Claude McIver when we asked you.
I guess yes, if it were reference to client files. You asked me about a document if it was for clients.
Right. And that's getting way ahead, but...
Oh, sorry.
Let me just ask you, no, it's fine.
Okay.
I asked you about a document that I saw, correct?
I believe so.
And then what did I ask you?
If it was a client,
And then what did you say?
I said yes, it was.
And then what did I do?
You put it down. I'm not sure. I don't remember where.
Okay, let me ask you this. Did I give it to you?
No.
Didn't you look at it?
I did look at it. You handed it to me. I gave it back to you.
And then what did I do?
You put it somewhere. I honestly don't remember where.
Okay. You sure you didn't keep it with you?
I believe you either, or I didn't, I think you set it on the coffee table, honestly, or the couch.
Okay. So let me ask you this more directly. Were you asked to come into the master bedroom closet where the clothing items of Mr. Claude McIver were so that you could look at something?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And when you were asked to come into that closet to look at an item, explain to the judge what happened.
You brought me in there to show me a gun.
Okay. And so, did you see a gun?
I did.
And can you tell the judge, where did you see a gun?
I believe it was a sock drawer.
And can you tell the judge, when you saw that gun in the sock drawer, which, by the way, that was whose sock drawer?
Mr. McIver's.
When you saw that gun, what did you say?
I believe, excuse me, I think I said, holy shit, was my first thing.
You're excused.
I believe I used other language,
Right.
which I
Right.
don't normally do, but
Right. And explain to the judge why you had that reaction after seeing a gun in the sock drawer of Mr. McIver.
well, first, I've never seen it in that drawer, and there was no guns on the premises that I knew about.
And explain to the judge how you know there were no guns on the premises that you knew about.
Because I've inventoried and gone through the whole condo several times.
When was the last time you would have gone through the condo and inventoried it before I showed you that gun in the sock drawer of Mr. McIver?
I think I was in that drawer, I believe, 3 weeks before, but I wasn't on inventory. There's been a ring that has been lost that was their father's, and his sister had asked me to look again.
Right. And we're talking about like a ring that fits on your finger,
Yes,
right? Pretty small item.
yes.
And so you looked in the sock drawer,
I looked in all the drawers.
all the drawers. The same sock drawer where you saw that gun when we were there together.
Yes.
And when you looked in that sock drawer for that ring, there was no gun in there, was it?
No,
And that was 3 weeks ago.
about 3 weeks ago.
Were you aware that Mr. McIver was under a court order not to have any guns in his possession at all?
Yes,
Is that kind of why you said, holy
yes,
S-H-I-T?
yes.
Is it different if you spell it?
Probably not. Okay. You were kind enough to share with us pretty much what you've just told the judge, that you had just looked in that drawer a couple of weeks ago and didn't see a gun, correct?
Yep.
And do you recall asking me if you could take a photograph of it?
I did.
And what did I say?
You said yes.
And did you take a photograph of it?
I did.
On your phone?
On my phone.
Okay. And let me ask you this. About what time did we wrap up the whole search of the condos, both 1501 and 1502, and kind of say goodbye?
I believe it was 8:25.
8:25.
And no Chick-fil-A.
And no Chick-fil-A.
And no Chick-fil-A. Okay. And when we left at 8:25, was there any member of the district attorney's office remaining there at the condominium?
Upstairs?
Yeah, were we around anywhere?
No.
We were gone.
Nope, I said goodbye to all of you at once.
Right. And can you tell the judge, what time did you leave?
I believe 9:20, 9:30?
You remained about almost an hour after.
Correct.
Okay. And can you tell the judge, what was the condition of the condominiums, 1501 and 1502, when you let us in to conduct a search? Generally speaking, what was the condition of those condos?
As far as being clean,
Or messy, or stuff all over the place, or turned upside down, anything like that?
you're asking the wrong person because I'm very anal. So in my mind, it's messy, but no, it's very clean.
Okay.
In order.
Okay. And when we left it, did we leave it roughly in the same condition as we found it?
Yes, you did.
Okay. And can you tell the judge, during that hour or so that you were there after we left, what did you do?
I went to Janie Calhoun's for dinner,
And tell the judge, who is Janie Calhoun?
the next door neighbor.
Okay. She actually lives on the 15th floor.
She does. And I was starving. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
I was starving.
No Chick-fil-A, right?
No Chick-fil-A.
Right. I'm sorry. And you know Ms. Calhoun to be a personal friend of both Diane McIver as well as Claude McIver.
That is correct.
Right. And Can you tell the judge, did you have any conversations with Ms. Calhoun about this gun?
I did.
And can you tell the judge what is it? And by the way, is Ms. Calhoun outside? Did you
I
see
haven't
her?
seen her.
You haven't seen her?
I have
Okay.
not seen her.
Can you tell the judge, what did you tell Ms. Calhoun about this gun?
I asked her if she would keep it in her apartment.
You asked Janie Calhoun, the neighbor, if she would keep the gun that you just saw in Mr. McIver's drawer, sock drawer, in her apartment.
Correct.
About how old is Janie Calhoun?
That's really not fair to ask a woman of that.
I'll ask the question, why did you ask Ms. Calhoun to do anything with the gun?
I was directed to do that.
Who directed you?
Steve Maples,
And who was Mr. Maples?
Mr. McIver's attorney.
How did Mr. Maples come to direct you to do that?
I called him
And when did you call him?
right after y'all left.
Why did you call him?
I was very concerned there was a gun in the house. Sorry, condo.
And what exactly were you directed to do?
To bring it to Janie Calhoun's and see if she would take it.
Who said that to you?
Mr. Maples.
Did you believe that was the appropriate action for you to take?
Objection, Your Honor. Almost got us rolling. And we're here at discussing legal ramifications of actions.
And what part?
We're calling for legal conclusion from this witness.
Okay, I didn't hear it so much as was it legally appropriate, but I am keying in on the relevance
Sure.
concern. Why
It
is it relevant?
only goes to one of the prongs that I'll be arguing with respect to the factors, and that is that there was a deliberate interference, tampering, and perhaps influencing of witnesses, prospective witnesses that are very necessary and material with respect to not only the bond hearing, but the case in chief.
Okay. Why don't you ask a different question in that vein?
Okay.
And we'll see where we go with that.
Okay. Would you have moved that gun out of the apartment if you were not directed to do so?
No, I would not have.
Did you move that gun out of the condominium?
Yes, I did.
Why did you move the gun out of the condominium?
I was asked.
By whom?
Mr. Maples.
Now, did you, can you describe to the judge, did you use gloves when you handled the gun? Did you put on gloves?
No, I did not.
You touched the gun with your own fingers, possibly leaving fingerprints on the gun.
Yes.
I want to be clear on this. You weren't in here, but I've seen a box, a gun, a gray bag. Did you actually touch the firearm, or did you touch the box that had in it whatever may have been in it?
Unfortunately, I touched it all.
Okay. Thank you.
And we get into that. So tell the judge exactly how it is you came to transport the gun from the sock drawer of Mr. McIver. How'd you do it?
How did I? I picked it up and carried it
While it was in the box.
while it was in the box.
And can you tell the judge that you ever removed the firearm from the box, the case?
I did.
And tell the judge when you did that.
That evening,
When?
when I was at Janie's. I don't know what time.
Okay, so let me make sure I'm clear. When you went to Janie's for dinner, did you have the gun with you at that time?
Not at first. I went back and got it.
Okay. And why did you go back and get it?
Because Mr. Maples told me to go get it.
And so when you went and got it, did you remove it from the drawer while it was still in the case?
Yes, I did.
And then at what point did you take it out of the case and actually handle it with your own hands?
I believe on Sunday.
So you didn't do it while you were at Janie's house?
I don't believe I did.
You didn't show Janie the gun?
Honestly, I don't remember anymore. That night was very confusing. I could have. I don't remember.
Have you ever handled a gun in Mr. McIver's sock drawer before?
No, I've never handled a gun ever.
Ever?
Ever.
How could you forget whether or not you actually took that gun out at Janie's house?
I could have. I honestly, I've touched that gun twice. I don't know if it was all on Sunday or if it was on Friday and Sunday.
Did you touch the magazines that were inside the box?
I guess so.
The clips, the things
Yes.
that hold the bullets?
Yes.
You did?
I believe so.
And can you tell the judge when you went back to Janie's with the gun, you actually carried it in her condominium?
Yes.
What did you say to her?
I said, can you keep this?
Did she know what it was?
Objection calls for speculation as to what Ms. Calhoun knew.
I'll rephrase it. Did you tell her what it was?
I did.
You did. What did you tell her?
I said, this is a gun, can you keep it?
You said, this is a gun, can you keep it? That's what you said to her.
I believe those were my words.
Did you tell her, this is a gun I got from Texas condominium? Can you keep it?
I think she knew that.
How did she know that?
Objection calls for speculation as to how Ms. Calhoun knew.
I'll rephrase it. Why do you say she knew that?
Because she knew I was next door.
Same objection, Your Honor.
Okay, but if you didn't tell her, as best you recall, you didn't tell Ms. Calhoun directly, this is where it came from.
No, not directly.
You're connecting dots.
I am connecting
Which people
dots.
naturally do.
We do.
Except in the rare air of a courtroom.
Right, okay. How long did you stay at Ms. Calhoun's with the gun?
Till about 9:20, 9:25. I tried to eat really fast.
Okay. And then what did you do?
I drove to my daughter's house
And where does your daughter live?
in Lawrenceville, Georgia.
Lawrenceville, Georgia. And can you tell the judge, where do you live?
Ottawa, Tennessee.
Ottawa,
Can
Tennessee.
you spell that for the court reporter?
Yes, it's Ooltewah.
Is that near Chattanooga?
Yes, it is.
And very briefly, what was the occasion that had you here in town?
Easter?
Okay. And so when you left Ms. Calhoun's and you went to your daughter's, did you get any other instructions from Mr. Maples about what to do with this gun?
I don't believe so.
So after Janie Calhoun didn't take the gun from you as directed to you by Mr. Maples, so then what did you do?
I actually went to my daughter's house and went to bed.
But you brought the gun with you.
Yes, it was hidden in my suitcase. So my family wouldn't know about it.
You didn't tell your family you had it?
No, I did not.
So that was Friday night, right?
Yes.
Did you talk to Mr. Maples again Friday night?
After that?
At any point after he told you, take the
No.
gun over to Janie's?
No.
You didn't talk to him at all Friday night?
Not afterwards, no.
Okay. How about Saturday?
No.
Didn't talk to him on Saturday?
Nope.
Where was the gun on Saturday?
In the same suitcase.
Okay. Did you talk to Mr. Maples on Sunday?
No, I did not.
Where was the gun?
Still in the suitcase.
So how long did you remain in Lawrenceville with your daughter?
Till Monday morning.
And were you scheduled to come to my office for an interview Monday morning?
I was.
Right. We talked about that while we were executing the search warrant on Friday, right?
We did.
Right. And I told you I wanted to sit you down and maybe take a more formal statement, right?
Correct.
And you agreed to come.
I did.
And can you tell the court, did you come see me on Monday?
I did not.
And what did you do on Monday?
I retained counsel.
And what counsel did you retain?
Nick Latito?
Nick Latito. You know him to be one of the best criminal defense lawyers in town, right?
Not really. I know. I just met him.
Okay.
He may be, but I don't know that.
You're in good hands.
Thank you.
If you don't mind me asking, why did you get Nick Latito?
Why?
Don't answer yet.
I move on.
Okay. If we're on to Monday, I have a question. Or are you going back to the weekend?
I'm on Monday.
So, Ms. Johnson, you said to me that you handled the gun twice over the weekend. And you thought probably Sunday was when you handled it. And as I'm understanding, Sunday You aren't dealing with Miss Calhoun anymore. She has demurred. I'm not keeping the gun. Why were you handling the gun, not just the box it was in, on Sunday?
I was asked to photograph it to see what kind of gun it was and the serial, or whatever number goes on a gun.
Okay.
I don't know if it's a serial number, I don't know what, it's a number.
But who asked you to do that?
Mr. McIver.
Okay.
How did Mr. McIver come to have a conversation with you about photographing the gun?
I talked to him on Sunday.
And how did that conversation occur, that phone call? How did that happen?
He wanted to know about the gun, and he didn't know it was in the sock drawer. He wanted to know what kind it was. I don't know about guns. Didn't know what kind, so I had to open it.
Did he call you or did you call him?
I believe he called me first, but I didn't answer, and I called him back.
And so tell the judge exactly what Mr. McIver said to you.
He asked me if I could take a picture of it for the number and what kind of gun it was.
And did you ask him how did he even know about the gun? That you had it?
No, I did not.
Do you know how he knows
Yes,
that
I
you
do.
had it? How do you know?
Objection, I'm sorry.
Okay. I think we're okay so far.
So
but
far.
I'm following you.
Actually, I would ask for more foundation before she actually testifies as to how it is she knows.
Okay.
Okay. I guess that's a great question. Can you tell the judge how is it that you know?
I heard Janie tell him on Friday night,
Tell who?
Mr. McIver.
And you didn't have a conversation with Mr. McIver on Friday night?
No, because you told me to stay out of it. And I sort of did.
Right. Right. Not really, because you still talked to him on Sunday, didn't you?
Didn't I please both of you?
You write this down, Mr. Latito?
Absolutely.
And so on Sunday, tell the judge how you actually handled the gun.
I snuck into my daughter's bathroom and took pictures of it when they were all sleeping.
And you actually handled the weapon itself with your
I did.
hands. You weren't wearing any gloves or
I
anything.
was not.
What else did Mr. McIver tell you to do besides photograph it so that you could see the numbers?
Is there any way I can speak with my attorney?
Do you have any objection to having Ms. Johnson consult with Mr. Latito?
Yes, I'm not asking her about her communication with Mr. Latito. Mr. Latito hadn't even been retained at the point where we are.
Okay, but it's not a privilege issue, it's an incrimination concern, I assume. But if the question was, did Mr. McIver say anything wrong,
Right.
I'm going to require you to answer what you heard him say, not necessarily what you did. We're going to go piecemeal, one question at a time. But if the question was, as I recall, did Mr. McIver say anything else to you, ask you to do anything else, I'm asking you, directing you to answer that question. Now, if the question after that is, what did you, Ms. Johnson, do as a result, we may need to reevaluate whether you and Mr. Latito should talk before you answer that follow-on question, if there's a follow-on question. But we're on ground right now I'm comfortable with, so repeat your question for the record, and if it's the same question, I'll ask you to answer it.
Okay, thanks.
Just making a note, Judge. What did Mr. McIver tell you with respect to that gun after he said, photograph it so I can see the number?
He asked me to send the pictures to someone so they could identify the gun.
Okay. What else did he say?
That was it.
That was it.
That was it. That was it.
Are you sure?
To send the pictures, yes, I'm absolutely sure.
Mr. McIver never told you anything else about that gun, what to do with it, nothing?
Nothing, no, he did not.
So then let me ask you, what did you do with the gun after you had the conversation with Mr. McIver?
Before you do that, who did he tell you to send the pictures to?
Do I have to answer that?
Yep.
Howard Sills.
Do you know who Howard Sills is?
Yes, I do.
Who's Howard Sills?
I believe he's a sheriff in Putnam County.
Okay.
And for the court's edification, do you know that Howard Sills is the person who allegedly Mr. McIver turned over all the weapons that he had in his possession to?
I was told that, yes.
Did Mr. McIver tell you why he wanted you to send pictures to Howard Sills, who is the elected sheriff for Putnam County, of this gun that you had in your possession hiding in your daughter's bathroom?
I believe to identify it, to see whose it was. I'm not sure. I mean,
So is that a speculation, or is that what he said to you?
speculation.
You don't know.
I don't know.
And the photos that you took during the execution of the search warrant, they weren't sufficient? Because you took photos, I allowed you to photograph the...
Right, they weren't, you couldn't see the number on the gun.
Okay. So, now we're on Sunday, you've taken photographs of the gun. What did you do with it after that?
I brought it to an attorney's office
When did you do that?
Monday.
And what attorney did you bring it to?
At that time to Kirk Watkins.
Kurt Watkins?
Mhm.
You didn't bring it to Mr. Latito?
I hadn't met Mr. Latito yet
Why did you bring it to Kurt Watkins?
because I went to his office to meet with Nick Latito. And I wanted it out of my possession.
Let me ask you this. Why didn't you pick up the phone and call my investigator who you had been talking to on Friday and turn the gun in?
Did y'all leave me your number?
How did she get in touch with you to tell you to come to the condo?
She didn't.
You
Said
never
the
had,
concierge.
The concierge did.
you never had a conversation with the investigator?
No, not until she called me to be at your office on Monday is the first time she ever called me. Cynthia?
Right.
Yes, that number was at my daughter's. Well, not with me.
When you went to Attorney Watkins's office, it was for the purpose of meeting Mr. Latito?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And you had the gun with you for that visit?
Yes.
And you were aware that Mr. Latito was kind enough to call me on Monday and reschedule your appointment?
Yes.
And can you tell me at that time, like, why didn't you just give me the gun then, on Monday?
Why didn't you take it first? Why did you put me in that position?
Well, listen to me.
I don't know. I don't know what to do with guns. This is out of my world.
Who told you to move the gun?
I've already answered that several times, Mr. Maples.
You want to adjust that, or we're okay? Okay. Sorry about that. It's all right.
It's like
It's getting aggressive with the podium.
It is.
Sean Spicer moment. Okay. And so, can you tell the judge, we didn't meet on Monday. Did we actually meet 2 days ago on Wednesday?
We did.
You came down to my office.
I did.
And let me ask you this. When you came into my office, did we have a chance to sit down and talk with you?
Yes.
And can you tell the judge who was present?
Adam. The girl that sat in the middle of you, and I'm sorry I do not remember her name.
Okay. She was an investigator.
She was an investigator,
Right.
and then my attorney, Nick, and Kirk Watkins, the
Okay.
attorney for the estate.
And myself.
And yourself.
So let me ask you this. Can you tell the judge, I'm sure that when you came in the door, the first thing you said is, hey, Mr. Rucker, I moved the gun out of Tex McIver's condo that you showed me. You told me that.
No, I didn't.
You didn't. And in fact, I talked to you for several minutes and actually had to ask you, hey, we went back to the condo on Monday and the gun is gone. Do you know what happened to it? Right?
I think so.
Yeah, and when I asked you that, that is when you told me, oh, I moved it.
I think we said we brought it here to you.
After I asked you about it.
I'm not sure. I don't remember if it was before or after you asked.
I guess this is the crux of my question. You didn't volunteer that information to me, did you?
We were bringing the gun to you.
Listen to my question, Ms.
Okay.
Johnson. We're sitting in a room talking. You did not volunteer to me, hey, I have a gun in my possession. I removed it from the condo. You didn't volunteer that to me, did you?
No, because at the time I didn't have it in my possession.
Well, you didn't tell me that you took it.
I did not. You didn't ask.
And you didn't tell me until I asked, right?
I guess so.
Yeah, and that's my point. You understand?
No, I'm not really understanding it,
It's
but
okay.
okay.
Well, he'll argue it later. You don't need to.
Okay.
Okay. And so explain to the judge, how is it that we were able to get, you have it? I promise you it's been made safe, okay? It can't not be fired, okay? But I do want to show it to you, so I'll make sure we're talking about the same thing. This is State's Exhibit number 9, for the record. It's the box. And inside the box, and I'm going to sit it right here. I know you don't like guns, right?
No, I don't.
So that appears to be the gun, right?
Yes,
Okay.
without that thing around it.
Without this lock.
Right.
That's right. We put it there so that it can't be fired accidentally,
Okay.
right? And so this is the gun that you would have touched with your own hands.
Yes.
This is the gun that you removed from the sock drawer
Yes.
and had with you the entire weekend
Yes.
and turned over to your attorney, Mr. Watkins,
Yes.
right? And then on Wednesday, I had my investigator go with you down to the car to obtain the gun, correct?
Yes.
Now, let me ask you this. Can you tell the judge if at any time this gun, while it was in your possession, was not carried by you in this box? You understand my question?
Not really.
Yeah, that was an ugly question.
Yeah, thanks.
Let me do it this way. You touched the gun on Friday, right?
I don't remember, but I've touched it.
Well, let me say
Let's
this.
just say
You
I've
told me you
touched it.
twice.
I have. I've touched it twice
Okay,
to
I
take
just wanna make
pictures.
sure.
To take pictures, I have.
Right. So the first time you touched it was that on Friday?
I'm not sure. I just know I touched it twice. I took pictures.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm a little intimidated by a gun. I'm not a gun person.
Can we get it away from her?
Thank you.
Great.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Okay. You touched it on Sunday because you took pictures.
Yes.
That's one.
Yep.
Did you touch it on Saturday?
No.
Did you touch it on Friday?
I touched it when I brought it to Janie's in the little case.
But you didn't remove it?
I don't believe I did.
Okay.
But I don't remember.
That's okay. That's okay. Let me tell you where I'm going.
Okay. I wish you would.
Yeah. When we showed you that gun on Friday during the execution of the search warrant, there was a handgun plus 2 magazines, correct?
Yes, there was.
Right. When you turned it over to me on Wednesday with your attorneys, I got 1 gun and 1 magazine.
That is
right?
correct.
Tell the judge what the second magazine was.
It was in the bottom of my Louis Vuitton suitcase. It fell out when I took pictures.
And can you tell the judge that you turned that second magazine over to me on Wednesday when you came down to see me?
No, because I didn't know I had it.
But I thought you told me about it on Wednesday.
Oh, okay, Wednesday, sorry. Yes. Wednesday is the day I found it, when I went to empty, never mind, it doesn't matter why, but yes.
But that was before you came to see me.
Yes, it was.
And when you came to see me, you didn't bring it.
No, I didn't.
Right.
That is correct.
And can you tell the judge, after your telephone conversation with Mr. McIver about photographing the gun and sending the number to Howard Seal, Did you have any other conversations with Mr. McIver about this gun?
No.
When did you, or did someone on your behalf, get the magazine that had fallen out into your nice bag to the DA's office?
We brought it today.
And tell the judge how you brought it.
Kirk Watkins brought it. I did not.
Did you see what he did with it?
We all checked in at security downstairs.
And it was just left with them?
Yes, and then I witnessed the man in the hallway bring it up.
How long ago? Right before you came in?
Yeah, it was a little, maybe 15 minutes before, but yeah, I guess.
Okay. All right. I think that's all my questions for now.
Okay. So, Judge Hill, based on who is objecting, I assume you'll be asking questions of Ms. Johnson?
Yes, sir.
I want to talk scheduling because I am at risk of having my bond revoked if I stay a whole lot later. And we're not going to get through everything today. Do you envision having a lengthy cross-examination? I don't want to limit you at all. If the answer is it's 2 hours, it's 2 hours and you've earned it. But I'd like to not have to bring Ms. Johnson back all the way from a small town outside of Chattanooga if we don't need to. So give me your good faith estimate. An hour. Okay. If there are certain topics you'd like to cover up front, I think we're going to go to 6:30, but we're not going to go past that. I have some things I'm going to say and some things I'm going to do, whether we stop now or after you ask some questions. And then we're going to figure out a time to reconvene next week to learn more about this situation.
I really hate to inconvenience Ms. Johnson, but truth be told,
Order in court.
truth be told, I don't have any objection to continuing until Monday. It's late in the day and we've been at this all week, and Your Honor, we've been in and out of your chambers for 3 days. So I don't have a problem if Ms. Johnson can come back and spend some time with us on Monday.
Sure.
And I'm confident we can get her out before noon Monday.
Well, I'm not offering you Monday morning.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I appreciate you
Yes, sir.
seizing that time, but I actually need to do a few things Monday morning to see how open my week is.
Yes,
I
sir.
suspect that Monday morning is going to open up my week because cases that were supposed to go to trial will be pleading out.
Yes, sir.
And then I will have most of the week. So actually, we're going to move into a period of repose and flexibility. And when I see how Monday morning goes, then we'll reach out to everyone to figure out a good time to reconvene, with probably the primary variable being when is it convenient for Ms. Johnson to come back, because we're having you come down twice. I'm not trying to put you in the spotlight. I'm trying to be respectful of where home is. So we would reconvene with you beginning your cross-examination of Ms. Johnson whenever it is that we start.
And I might be able to shorten it if I had time to sit down and think about it.
Okay, and I want to be clear, I wasn't asking you to put any pressure at all. You're going to take the time you need. But here's what I am going to do. I need to find out if there is any reason why Mr. McIver needs to be in Putnam County between now and when we reconvene, because I don't want him there. I don't want him talking to the sheriff. I want him at the Kingsborough address until we finish this hearing.
That's where he's going to be.
Great. So, Mr. McIver, this is an oral emendation to your bond order. You don't go to Putnam County between now and the time we finish this hearing, and you don't have any communications with Sheriff Sills. Okay?
Sir, my Little League team has a tournament this weekend in Atlanta, and I plan to be here.
Okay.
Our tournament.
Great.
No plans at all to go to the county.
Excellent. I hope we can get closure on this as soon as possible. I don't mean to put any restrictions that aren't appropriate on your bond, as long as your bond remains in effect. But based on the partial information, and I respect that it's partial information.
Yes, it is.
I am going to require that you stay at the Kingsborough address in that you not go to Putnam County and that you not communicate with Sheriff Sills between now and the end of the hearing. When the hearing's over, obviously we'll be talking writ large about how the bond should be modified or revoked or whatever I conclude, having heard the whole story. I have only heard a small piece of it, and I appreciate that. But based on what I've heard, that is my direction to you, Mr. McIver. I'm glad that the Little League tournament is in Atlanta and not Putnam County, because then I'm not creating a big stir with this, but that's my direction. You're still standing. Was there anything more you wanted to say?
No, sir.
Okay. Mr. Maples,
Judge, I have court at 8:30 in Walton County,
on Monday.
Monday morning.
You don't need to be here Monday morning.
I
They're
can
going
be
to
here
be...
at 1 o'clock, 1:30.
Okay, I promise we'll let you know with more notice than that when we'll be reconvening. I need to figure out Monday morning whether my regularly scheduled trials are going or pleading. Word on the street is that they're pleading. And then I'm going to have a pretty open week, and we will get everyone back here as soon as we can.
May I ask this? May I ask the court to direct the district attorney's office to email the 4 search copies of the affidavits and the search warrants for the 4 searches in this case?
To all the attorneys of record on the other side of the room. Is that something you can make happen, Mr. Rucker?
I believe so, Judge.
Okay, great.
I would just ask the court for, in addition to your oral amendation, and that is that Mr. McIver not having direct or indirect contact with Ms. Johnson, and also a prospective witness who is to come, and that is Ms. Janie Calhoun.
Okay. Mr. McIver, the unrealistic goal was that we would get through the whole hearing this afternoon, and it's not going to happen because we've got important issues and we've got great lawyers, and that combines to mean lots of time.
And money.
I'm free. You're not paying for me at all. But you're right. So between now and the end of the hearing, it is important that you not have any contact, direct or indirect. Don't ask your attorneys to reach out to Ms. Johnson or Ms. Calhoun. It's just sort of extending this rule of sequestration we've got in place. And I'm not trying to isolate you. You have other folks you can interact with, but we've got a sheriff, Ms. Johnson and Ms. Calhoun, who are folks you'll need to just take a social break from until we're done with the hearing, okay?
Understood, I agree.
Okay.
Ms. Calhoun.
Excuse me.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
think he's going to speak, but
Mr. Watkins was going to speak for you?
well.
Okay.
I had an observation that I would like to make before we go on. I believe we can meet the objective of the court and still coordinate through counsel some of the information that needs to be gathered for some negotiations that are taking place for the estate that are not here. And I would like to at least be able to coordinate that without passing information directly from one to the other. But for example, if we're trying to negotiate something and Mr. McIver reminds me of something I need to ask Ms. Johnston that has nothing to do with this hearing, I don't want to violate any order.
So you would be the one attorney who could play that role. It wouldn't be appropriate for Mr. Maples, Judge Hill, Mr. Latito to serve as a conduit, because your only reason to be interacting with Mr. McIver right now, as I understand it, would be a state-related X is being sold, or we think it should be marketed at Y, and Ms. Johnson has an obvious connection with that. So I don't mean to interfere with that, but you're the intermediary. And as an officer of the court, I trust you would limit it to that and not, well, remember about the gun.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
3 little points and I'm finished, Your Honor.
Okay.
And I don't mean to be dogmatic about this, but I am concerned about trying to get started on that verified complaint. If somebody would simply acknowledge service, so I don't have to have the sheriff serve on the DA's office. The second one is, with reference to these affidavits underlying the search warrants, if the court could help us understand by way of time, if they could be emailed to us at least by noon tomorrow. What I don't want to get them is shortly before coming in for the next hearing. And thirdly, I would like to get a copy of the information that the district attorney's office has from the ATF
background work they've done on this pistol. I too would like to know, and it may be very well exculpatory information as to where the ownership is of this pistol. And I truly do believe, with reference to that third point, the DA has that information. And I'm asking for them, in all fairness, share it with us.
Okay. Well, ownership and possession, I guess, are two different things that we need to work through. But I'll take those in order. When we reconvene, whenever it is we've reconvened, we are reconvening for the conclusion of the bond revocation hearing. It would be a bad development for the state if Judge Hill is still asking about whether someone has accepted service.
Yeah, understood.
Okay.
I just hadn't had a chance to talk to him about it and
Okay.
designate a person. We're going to take care of that. He doesn't have to say another word about it.
He may, but it just needs to not be in here in front of me. Secondly, I'm not going to ask you to do anything by noon tomorrow, but a project for Monday morning will be to email to all the attorneys
Understood.
the affidavits.
Yes.
And finally, as to ATF, I'm not going to get in the middle of that. If there's information that you think ought to be disclosed, this isn't a trial, it's a hearing. This is not the first time Judge Hill has asked, and Mr. Maples has asked on the record of a witness who didn't have knowledge. So we all know I'm not a big fan of hearing by ambush or surprise.
Right.
But as I pointed out, ownership and possession are two different things as well. So let's proceed as cooperatively as we can. Those are your 3 points.
Yes,
You're
sir.
out of points.
You're right, and I think that as the evidence develops, ownership may inform on possession.
Okay. I'm here to be educated.
Yes.
Anything from the state?
Very quickly, I want to introduce the court to our new Deputy Assistant DA in charge of the appellate unit. It's Ms. Lindsay Rudder. I don't know if you've had the occasion to meet Ms. Rudder.
Hello, Ms. Rudder. I've heard of your arrival. Welcome.
Thank you.
And this afternoon, Your Honor, Ms. Rudder was able to put together a motion and actually file it. I would ask you your brief indulgence to hear upon it. I believe it would influence the court's direction to Mr. Watkins to indirectly perhaps start to have communications with Ms. Johnson. I would like to have her remain very pristine in this regard, and I think Ms. Rudder can address that.
Okay, well, I don't know if you need to file anything. Why don't you just tell me? Well, you can't
Yeah,
file.
it's
It's a
for
courtesy
me.
copy.
Okay.
Yes, and Your Honor, we're going to be we have filed a petition to remove Claude McIver as executor of Diane McIver's estate. That was filed in probate court this afternoon. It's the state's position that there is a conflict of interest in Mr. McIver remaining as executor, and that would pertain to what the attorneys for the witness just indicated. There would be discussions about the estate. Those discussions would no longer be necessary and/or privileged communication if he is removed as executor, which the state contends there will be ample evidence in the probate court matter to have him removed, and we'll be providing a copy of the court with the documents in that matter as well.
Okay, a couple things on that. One, I heard you say the magic terms probate court, so that's not anything
Yes,
that
Your
will be
Honor.
before me. But it will promptly be addressed, I am sure. And that's an action that the district attorney's office has brought.
Yes, Your Honor, and we believe we have standing in two regards, and again, I'm happy to explain that to the court now or say that for the probate court.
Yeah, it's not my decision.
Certainly, Your Honor.
Okay.
We just wanted to make you aware so you were understood some of the collateral matters that were occurring that would potentially affect the bond hearing on Monday or
Okay.
when it does resume.
When it does resume. Let's do this, Mr. Watkins. I think that the wiser course would be for you to bring to my attention any estate emergencies that might arise. And then I'll let you know if that's one that you ought to move forward on. We're going to get closure on the bond hearing early next week anyway. And so really all I'm asking is that Mr. McIver not have communications direct or indirect with Ms. Johnson until she's done testifying. And that will be partway through that hearing that hopefully will be as early as Tuesday. So in light of what we're hearing, and I'm not passing judgment in any way about standing, the validity of those efforts, it seems like the more cautious course of action would be to stand down, unless I tell you we can't have the hearing till Friday. And then I invite you to share with me the concerns that that might generate on your behalf, given your role. And if it's my fault that we're delaying the hearing, I may well need to say, even in the face of the district attorney's efforts at probate, you ought to be able to serve as that intermediary. But between now and when we reconvene, I haven't heard that burning need.
And let me share it. It may not be because of the timing, we may be through, but we have negotiations scheduled for next week where we are to hammer out the final details and if we're able to execute a settlement document. And that would be the primary time during the course of that there might have to be questions directed. It probably don't have to go between the two, it's possible, but if they do, they need to go through quickly.
Okay.
And that would be my issue.
Well, bring it to my attention should we start running into that deadline.
Right.
And Your
Okay.
Honor, the state has requested a probate that the hearing be expedited, and we filed an emergency motion, so that may lend to the court's discussion.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Anything else up your sleeve, Mr. Rucker?
No, sir.
Okay. Mr. McIver, things got just more expensive for you. Yet another forum in which you need to spring into action. In the meantime, enjoy the hospitality of Atlanta. I hope the Little League tournament goes well for whatever team you're rooting for. Someone from my office will be in touch with attorneys on all sides as to when we'll be reconvening with this matter. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Did you have something to add, Mr. Latif? I didn't mean to ignore, exclude you.
I'm just hearing that we're not going to reconvene until the earliest will be sometime Monday afternoon.
Correct.
Okay, fine.
Okay. All right. Mr. Johnson, thank you for being here.
Thank you for your patience.
You're welcome. Mr. Price, I hope you get overtime. Good. Next week, bring it by. I know you were here late yesterday and late today. Okay. Are you covering next week?